The head of Hamas's political bureau, Ismail Haniyah, says the group is ready to accept an agreement that guarantees a permanent ceasefire. He says it also wants a full withdrawal of Israeli forces from Gaza, reconstruction and an exchange deal.
لقد أبدت الحركة
Hamas showed great seriousness and flexibility in order to reach an agreement that would spare the blood of our Palestinian people and stop the Israeli aggression. This was reflected in our acceptance of what was mentioned by President Joe Biden in his speech, as well as our welcome to the Security Council resolution that was issued a few days ago. We gave our response to the mediators through a joint delegation between us and our brothers in the Islamic Jihad movement in Qatar. Our response is consistent with the principles put forward by President Biden's speech and with the Security Council's resolution regarding the 3 stages of the deal and the terms of the ceasefire.
The Israeli government has banned Al Jazeera from reporting there, so Hamdah Salhut now joins us from the Jordanian capital, Amman. So any reaction there in Israel to the comments we're hearing from Hamas members?
Well, there's always reaction from Israeli officials when leaders in Hamas speak out, but all of those comments are usually anonymous to Israeli media. And some of those comments that have been relayed anonymously, of course, have been saying that Hamas is the reason there hasn't been a ceasefire, that the deal that the Biden administration had laid out was in fact rejected by Hamas. The Israelis saw it as a negative response. So we've been seeing a lot of pointing the finger, a lot of back and forth between the Israelis and Hamas. Each side blames the other for why there hasn't been a ceasefire agreement. And the anonymous Israeli officials ended their statements to Israeli media by saying that Hamas was in fact the one who violated the previous ceasefire agreement back in November, where again Hamas accuses the Israelis of violating that deal. But let's remember that both sides have really tough sticking points that we've been talking about for months. Hamas wants to see a total end to the war, a withdrawal of Israeli troops, where the Israelis have said that until all of the goals of the war are achieved, that's simply not going to happen. And if Hamas does in fact want to see an end to the war, they're going to have to go back to the Biden administration's 3-phase plan and really agree to it the way Israel wants it. But until now, we are still nowhere closer to a deal.
And Hamdah, a protest group began a campaign of week-long disruptions. How disruptive was the beginning today?
Well, today we saw major highways throughout Israel that have been blocked in what protest organizers are calling a week of disruption. This means that there will be sporadic protests every single day throughout multiple parts of the country. And this is something we have seen from the Israeli public before, not just throughout the war, but in fact previously, before the war, when they were protesting against the government. There are expected to be protests throughout the week outside of the Israeli parliament. And what organizers are saying is, quote, give the mandate back to the people, calling on elections to be held immediately for new leadership. We've been seeing thousands of Israelis taking to the streets in Tel Aviv and in other parts of Israel on a weekly basis. But now they're saying that simply too much time has gone by. The war is entering its 10th month, and it is too much time for the captives to still be held in Gaza. So the Israeli public is trying to send a message that they're looking for new leadership immediately.
Thanks so much, Hamdah Salhut. And a reminder, the Israeli government banned Al Jazeera from operating in Israel and extended that decision, which is why Hamdah joined us from neighbouring Jordan. Well, Youcef Bouandel is Professor of Political Science and International Relations at Qatar University. He joins us from Constantine in Algeria. Good to have you with us. So first of all, what does Hamas's statement suggest to you about where the ceasefire talks are at this stage?
Well, I think that what Hamas wants is to dictate its will on these negotiations. Obviously, the Israelis have a different point of view. They wanted temporary ceasefires, and they wanted to achieve their stated objectives at the beginning of the war, namely the destruction of Hamas and making sure that Israel is safe and there will be no more attacks from Gaza. Hamas, on the other hand, has been holding tight on its demands, and they're saying there'll be no temporary ceasefires. What we want is a complete ceasefire and the second is complete withdrawal of Israeli forces from Gaza, and of course rebuilding the whole area. It seems to me that given the international pressure that we've seen in so many cities in the Western world, and most importantly in so many university campuses in the United States and Britain, just to name these two traditional allies of Israel, I think that public opinion has been swinging more towards Hamas. There are so many, a number of countries in Europe who have recognized Palestine as a state. There are many divisions within Israel itself, and especially the war cabinet with the recent resignation of Gallant. I think all these seem to strengthen Hamas's hands in the negotiations. And most importantly, perhaps, is that Israel has not been able to defeat Hamas on the ground. There will be so many Palestinian losses. Yes, but the Palestinians have been resilient and they are there, as your images have shown. Like you said a few seconds ago, that Al Jazeera was banned from reporting from Israel is another important development, because Al Jazeera has been showing the other side of the story, something that the Israelis do not want to see.
What is the US position, though? How is that evolving? Well, last we heard from Secretary of State Antony Blinken was saying that Hamas's response contains things they can work on and things they can't. What is the position now?
Well, I think it's very difficult to gauge the US's position. Obviously, from the beginning, that the US has been very supportive of Israel, providing them with all the support, either military, political, economic, and so on and so forth. But given the elections in the US within a couple of months from 3 months from now, public opinion has been swinging. We see that at least the US position has been trying to realize that the situation is very, very serious. They accepted that some of Hamas's demands are legitimate, they can work on, but also they don't want to upset, or the Biden administration doesn't want to upset the strong Jewish lobby in the US, and does not want to upset its allies in Israel. So I think it's taking the middle ground and hoping to see some kind of developments that will make the picture clearer as far as the United States is concerned.
And Youcef, today we had some conflicting signals on a pause. The Israeli military saying earlier that it would begin pauses. Israeli politicians being reported to have criticized that. What does that tell us about the cohesiveness of thinking and decision-making within Israeli authorities right now?
Well, I think there are so many deep divisions within Israel at the moment, and they have been for the last few months or so. There are people in Israel who want a ceasefire, a complete ceasefire. But if there is a ceasefire at the moment, I think that would signal the end of Benjamin Netanyahu's premiership. I think the divisions in Israel are twofold, two camps. The Netanyahu camp, who want to continue this war in order to achieve its objectives and, most importantly, keep his positions. Others, to my mind, who see sense that this war, who has been going on for the last 8 months or so, has not achieved any of its objectives. There have been some hostages freed recently, but they came at a very high cost. the hostages who were freed through negotiations. So the war has not achieved anything, and these people are seeing a little bit of sense to say that people are saying that the only way forward is through negotiations, and the battlefield will not achieve anything.
All right, Youcef Bouandel from Qatar University, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.